Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Today I'm working on my Sunday's Art of Truth. It's called Hello Fall. A little bit more exploration into the enjoyment of fall art. So these are some of the products that I'll be using. I did already pre-gesso my pages, and I'm working in my Arteza journal that measures 8.5 by 8.5. And I'll be doing, I watched a YouTube video by Amber Creative, and I'll be sure to link her video in my end cards so you can watch her video as well. That was kind of where I got the idea of doing these squares and rectangles to create some texture on the background. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using scrapbook paper to adhere those to my surface. I'm not covering all of the pages, just the most of the left-hand side and then a little bit on the right-hand side, as you'll be able to see as we move along. I did start out using a heavy watercolor paper to make those squares, but I did stop that process and I started over with just scrapbook paper that was not as thick. I was concerned about whether or not they would adhere well. So, and here it is all dried. So as you can see, I did just a little bit on the right-hand side there. And I did prepare some embellishments. This was a print that I did using Dina Wakley acrylic sprays. So I just cut it into a tag shape and created a pocket. And then the other tag there that you see, I also cut from a different project that I had worked on, just playing around with oxides and things like that. So I'll be starting out with golden fluid acrylic and transparent yellow iron oxide. And I'll be putting that over both of the pages. And even though my inspiration for this spread was from Amber Creative, I think it's Amber K Creative, I'm not sure. Again, I'll link her. I didn't follow her process exactly, but some general concepts I did. I loved the effect of this and how that color settled into the seams of the of those squares and rectangles that I had put on the background. And really what I wanted here was just to create a base layer of that really sunny yellow and then go from there. Did spritz it with a little bit of water because it was still pretty thick. The oxide pigments tend to be a little bit thicker even in the fluid acrylics. And I'm going to go ahead and wipe that back a little bit with my baby wipe just to kind of lighten it and create some kind of modeling effect over both of the pages, while leaving that darker shade catching on the edges of all that paper. Absolutely gorgeous. I have a hard time knowing when to stop, as you've probably heard me say many times. So this project did go farther than I had intended, but I still love the outcome and the process was beautiful. So coming in now with my Deco Art crackle paint, and I'm going to do some crackling on the pages again, not everywhere, mainly on the left-hand side on all of those squares and rectangles, and then a little bit on the right-hand side. I'm not doing any of that on the part of the pages that doesn't have the that texture with the papers. And I apologize for that being a little off screen. I was really in the zone here and really enjoying the process. And when that happens, I kind of lose track of my camera. So I apologize for that. And there's just a close-up of that crackle. Love the crackle. And it becomes more and more beautiful as you work with it. And as you apply color to the surface, it just gets into all of those nooks and crannies and those cracks. And it's just gorgeous. Now I'll be coming in. I apologize I didn't show you that. This is the carved pumpkin in Deco Art Americana paint. It's a craft acrylic. So I'll be applying that here and there and using my baby wipe to blend it. Sorry, I've lost my words. I just sped that up just a little bit. A lot of the video is a little bit sped up where it feels like it's a little bit redundant, and it doesn't really cost you anything to lose that part. So I did try to not cut out too much of this process, even though it had a few rabbit trails. I was able to keep most of it in. So, but I really love the effect, and just really, again, as I mentioned in an earlier video, playing with the fall colors and the fall concepts, and really trying to internally embrace the season rather than kind of wish it was over. So my history just has a lot to do with that. So I'm working on it, and I was just thrilled with how this turned out, and the process was really, really enjoyable for me, and definitely a healing time. So now I'm going to come in and do some background stamping with my penny black script stamp. This is a Paris or French script stamp. It is my absolute favorite stamp of all time, and I use it. I have a hard time not using it, so it's in a lot of my projects. And they're just speeding that up a little bit for you. Again, I do end up going everywhere. My goal was to just put it on the paper that didn't have the squares and rectangles, but again, that didn't happen, but it's okay. I was following my process, and that was just fine. And so I did make sure this was nice and dry. And even though I did do that, my orange and my blue did blend together. Oh, and here I'm just showing you, this is the other project that I had done using those same colors, and I just wanted to show you how that turned out, and I liked the color combination. So again, even though this was mostly dry, or I felt like it was dry, I did get a really kind of muddy color when I tried to put this blue on. So I had to kind of improvise and approach this a little bit differently. So rather than trying to really blend those colors together, I more wanted them just both represented on the page. And so you'll see me go back and forth between the carved pumpkin and the moody blue throughout the process, just to make both of them kind of stand on their own and be vibrant in their own right. So that's what you see me doing here. So just finishing applying those colors, and then I'll finesse it a little bit here as we go along. And then just again coming in with the carved pumpkin, because I lost a lot of that orange. So in the end, it balanced out quite well, and I was satisfied with it. It's definitely a growing opportunity to work with colors that you are not comfortable with, or you normally wouldn't, as well as techniques that you would not normally use. I think we all kind of have our comfort zones when it comes to our creative process, but I think in that place we kind of stifle our future growth by kind of being resistant to trying new things. And so that's kind of why I'm doing this. And I've definitely felt a heart shift for me around the fall season, and not that I'm in love with it, but I'm definitely feeling appreciative of it and not as encumbered by history and kind of old thoughts and old ideas about it. So kind of cleaning house there. I was trying to do spattering here with this brush. I believe it's a Dina Wakley acrylic brush or mixed media brush, but it just was not splattering. So I did kind of search there for my fan brush, which is my favorite brush to splatter with. And I gave that another try, and that worked a lot better. I kind of wish that I had gone in and done the blue as well, but I did not. But again, as you'll see in the still photos at the end, it turned out really beautiful. So no regrets. And then there I was debating on whether to use my magenta in the heavy body or go ahead and use the craft acrylic from Deco Art Americana. That's Berry Cobbler. I've used that in some other projects recently. It didn't exactly match the colors of that tag that I just showed you, but that was created some time ago with the acrylic sprays, but it was a close enough match that they went together. So I'm using that Berry Cobbler to do some stenciling with this honeycomb stencil. And the reason why I chose this stencil is because it is the one I also used when I did the acrylic spray project where I made those. I was just playing with the acrylic sprays and made a bunch of card fronts and decided I would go ahead and use them. I made die cuts out of them and die cut shapes and things. So I had one available still to use, and I cut that. That's the one I cut down to the tag. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied today, apparently. So just going here and there, just all around the page. I almost wish that I had stopped sooner than later here on the stenciling, which again is an issue for me. I tend to kind of do too much, you take that one step too far. Again, as I mentioned before, it's mixed media. It's in the art journal. This is all about play, experimenting, playing with different techniques, learning, and most of all, finding joy in the process. So I definitely found a lot of joy. And there's just a close-up of all that texture and just where it's all settling in. I love it. And here I decided I did want to grunge it up a little bit, so I'm coming in with my raw umber golden fluid acrylic and my golden glazing medium, and I'm going to do a glaze over both of the pages. And the reason for that is I really just wanted that raw umber to settle into all of the places where those papers meet and where they overlap, and it created a beautiful, beautiful effect. So I was super glad that I did that. Sometimes I regret doing the raw umber glaze because it tends to darken my project to the point of no return. But this was just perfect, and I was able to wipe back enough of it to still retain the brightness of the colors that I had chosen while still kind of creating a grungy effect overall. So you can see there how it's settling into those where the papers are overlapping, and just gorgeous. And it was so effective that I didn't really do any other shading on this page. I just kind of slapped all my elements on, and I was just perfectly happy with it. And I'm definitely going to try this technique again using the scrapbook paper squares and creating some interest in the background again there. So here I'm coming in with the Moody Blue again. As I mentioned before, I really want that represented in a strong way on the piece, as well as the pumpkin, the carved pumpkin. I want them both to kind of stand alone and be vibrant by themselves. So that's what I'm doing here. First with the blue, and I do believe I come in with the orange as well, or maybe not. So I was prepared to do my stenciling, but then I decided I needed to look and see where my embellishments were going to end up so that I could determine where my stenciling would be. So that's what you see me doing there. I've got a couple of butterflies, which I also die cut out of some just some card panels that I had created using a variety of different mediums as I've kind of played in the studio. And I was debating on those wood shapes. They're a really thin chipboard. I do end up using them in the end, which you'll see here pretty soon. So I'm going to go ahead and stencil the Hello Fall in the upper left-hand corner of the page. And then I'll be stenciling Grateful in the lower right-hand corner. Just a perfect little space for it. So I'm using my black archival ink from Ranger and a makeup brush. And this makeup brush is dedicated to my black archival ink. That's how much I do this technique. So I have one that's just strictly for the black. So I do have a smaller one as well that's also reserved for black ink. And then now I'll be going in and using my artist pit pin to connect all of the pieces of the stencil so that it doesn't look so stenciled. And you can find a link to all of the supplies over on my blog, and the link to my blog will be in the description box. And as I mentioned before, this is my Sunday's Art of Truth, so I'll be writing about Hello Fall and just some of the the processing that I did and some of the kind of internal workings that I went through to get to the place where I felt comfortable doing this and felt open to doing this and why. So I am a transparent sharer. That's just how I've always been. So I hope that it does not offend or bother anyone. That's why I do Sunday's Art of Truth, because I believe that we learn from one another by sharing our stories and parts of our stories that are safe to share. And so that people know that they're not alone in their struggles. And that's really my heart. So here I just came in with my black archival ink and did some edging around both of my tags, as you can see there. And then also around both of the butterflies. And there we go. Beautiful butterflies. And then I decided I wanted something on that tag. It was going to be tucked into that pocket, but I wanted it to have a message. So I pulled out another one of Sean's stencils, and I stenciled the word hope on it. And again, that's part of the story. Breaking out of our patterns and breaking out of our past. It can be both healing, but also difficult because we get kind of attached to what is familiar. And so there's healing involved in changing the way that we think about things that happen to us and things that we associate with certain times of the year, such as the fall for me. So I'm no longer triggered and bothered by the season per se, but I just have never kind of broken the thought patterns around it and tried to reframe it, I guess. This is a reframing. So here you're going to see me struggle a lot with these ribbons and stuff, because I picked a piece of ribbon that was thicker and more like a yarn, and I put it on that bigger tag, and then I ended up not liking that, so I'm going to take it off. And in this process, I'm fussing with trying to figure out a way to get any of those wood shapes to attach to the tag and to the ribbon. I was not successful at that. I ran out of patience really quick. On the fly, it's a little bit harder for me to do. If I had planned this out better, I might have been able to figure it out. So you're going to see me do this in a couple of different ways, each time setting those leaves aside, but you will see that I use them in the end. What do they say? Try, try, try again. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. And so there I'm just going back to putting that ribbon on and still thinking, oh, maybe I can slide one of those wood shapes on one of the strings of that tassel-y thing, but it did not work. It doesn't help when your fingers are all sticky and thick with paint. It makes trying to do stuff like this really difficult and frustrating. So I should have probably paused and just cleaned my hands off so that I could come back to that. But so now I've got my heavy gel out, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere my tag as well as my butterflies. And then it's at this point that you're going to see me use a few of those wood shapes. And in the video, they're just their natural color. At the end and off camera, I did come over them with a little bit of the black archival ink to make them a little bit darker so that they would go with the whole piece rather than kind of standing out a little bit more. So, and I love how the little pocket turned out. Just absolutely phenomenal. Really a fun addition to the page. This is something that I did get from Amber's video. she had it looked like she was using some old stuff as well and kind of improvising and making it fit with the project that she was working on. I have to say I loved the spread that she did, and I hope that you'll check out her video. And again, I'll be sure to link that at the end of my video. Just adhering those wood bits as well. Thought maybe that one would go up into the left-hand corner there, but it didn't. It seemed weird, so I brought it down into another spot, find a new home. And what I'm doing there with the baby wipe is I like to have a baby wipe to push down my elements so that my fingers don't stick to everything, and it allows me to kind of apply pressure while not getting stuck to the project. So it works really well. So I'm going to apply the butterflies in the same manner. Butterflies are much easier than the wood shapes. The wood shapes have so many little holes in them that it's really hard to get the gel in there to make it effective. It just oozes out everywhere, and it's just so messy. And as I've mentioned before, adhesive and I do not get along. I've yet to find stuff that I don't get frustrated with. So I don't like the stickiness of it either on my hands, so often I will use a brush. So here I'm coming in with my black archival ink, and I'm going to edge around the entire project. In retrospect, I would probably do this differently. I think I was in a little bit of a hurry, and so I end up getting, like, as you can see there, a thicker line of border there than I wanted, and so I might do that differently in the future, maybe use my soft pastel like I usually do in my projects. But for an art journal page, it was fine, and I knew it would be fixed and permanent, which is probably why I initially grabbed it. It is permanent. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you'll hop on over to my blog at B.Rebornart.com and check out the Sunday's Art of Truth. You can read about the inspiration for this project. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, I would sure encourage you to do so. Click the notification bell so that you can be notified when I upload a new video. I do upload at least twice a week. So thank you again for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.